Hi everyone, and welcome to my Tuesday e-commerce live. If you have been following me for the past month, every Tuesday I host an IG live, and not we, interview some of, I want to say the thought leaders and heavy hitters that are in the e-commerce space. So this evening I will be interviewing Jandre de Beer. He is the CEO slash founder of V8 Media, and who I dub as one of like the e-commerce kings in the South African context. Working with clients both locally and internationally, he is, I think, amazing actually. And if you actually ever like followed his stories or done any one of his free webinars, you would know how insightful he is, especially when it comes to the ad space. He's also an author of Adjust. So yeah, I think we are in really good hands this evening. I'm just waiting for him to join and we will get into the chat. Hi Avisha. Guys, are you able to hear me? Sorry. Hi, sorry for that. Hi Carl, how are you? Hi guys, we are just waiting for Jandre to join. Give me a few secs and we can get this e-commerce live started. Hi Mei-Ling. Awesome Carl, thank you for letting me know. All right, looks like Jandre has joined the room.
Hi, Andre.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, yourself.
Yeah, good. I'm still at the office, and excuse the way I look.
I was
I just got back from
just gonna
gym.
ask, but still wait.
Yeah,
Burning the.
yeah, we have a short week actually. As an executive team, we're going down to Cape Town on Thursday evening. So you're just trying to get everything done and make sure everything is in place for a long weekend as a team getaway, just to plan in the next couple of months for
Amazing.
the business. But yeah, other than that, things are good. No complaints.
I'm glad, and thank you for taking the time out to join me and hop on this live. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
For those
I
of you
love
that
doing
are
this.
just joining, Yandre, funny enough, I have locally been stalking him for the last 2, 3 years. So I've actually been following V8 Media for like that long time. And I'd mentioned early on in my introduction, obviously to see how you guys obviously niche down and to see where you guys are now has been such a great transformation to see. You know how they always say someone's always watching. I was one of those people.
Sure, man. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the compliment.
Pleasure. So for those of you that also, again, like I mentioned, just joining, Yandre actually is also an author of Adjust and is a big heavy hitter in the ad space when it comes to e-commerce. But tonight we won't be talking about that. I'll probably have him jump on again at a later stage to discuss ads and how he does all these hacks, which is absolutely amazing, especially for those of us that are running e-commerce business and are looking to scale. But I'm going to let him introduce himself as well as V8 Media, and then we're going to jump straight into it on how to run an online business. So is yours, Andre.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, look, I mean, there's not much to say. Just a random guy who enjoys digital marketing as much as the next person. The journey started about 10 years ago. I think there's one of the guys. The journey actually started with someone called Jandre. His name's also Jandre Blom. I think he might be on here. I think he joined just now. So long story short, I went to him and asked him to help me with the website. This was when I was still a personal trainer, and it was still we were still playing rugby at the time, and I was thinking to myself, I'm going to tap into this online space because I'm getting so tired of all my personal training clients asking me the same stuff over and over and over. And long story short, it was literally a situation of him helping me build the site, and him and his partner at the time. And when I had the site, I was like, okay, cool, but how do I make money off of the site? And I remember them saying, well, you can sell ad space on it. And I was like, okay, cool, but how do I go about it? And they're like, well, we don't know. Like, you need to figure it out. Let's figure it out together. And that's how I really went into the journey of digital marketing, because I was like sitting there going, how to drive traffic to my site? And then Google was like, you should do search engine optimization. I was like, okay, how to do search engine optimization? And then it came out to be very technical. I was like, okay, how to drive traffic without doing search engine optimization? And one of the things that actually happened was Google spat out saying, you need to start a Facebook page, and it should be a situation where, you leverage that page and want to drive traffic to your site. And that's exactly what I did. So long story short, that's where my Facebook journey began. And I was probably one of the first people to spend money on the platform back in 2011 or 2012. And I was dropping like R1,000 a month on Facebook ads because that's all I had as a disposable income. So I had to choose between whey protein and a pre-workout, because I was a personal trainer at the time. I'm going to spend my money on a whey protein and a pre-workout to secure my muscle recovery, or am I going to spend that on Facebook ads? And, I picked Facebook ads over a good body, obviously, as you can see. but I'm glad I did. So long story short, that's where the journey began. And then that business got bought out by a company called Chrome Supplement Accessories here in Johannesburg. I moved up from George, and after a couple of years, I was like, look, I'm keen to, entertain my entrepreneurial spirit again. And I just asked myself, what is the next big thing that I really enjoy? And that's marketing. And that's when I started the agency in 2018. And as you've mentioned, like, we've pivoted, and we grew quite quickly. I have a great team. Like, I met Gilbert, our general manager, like literally 2-3 months into the journey. I can't imagine having a better team than we have right now. So we've been very blessed at finding the right people and assisting with the growth. And here we are. And today we just focus on helping e-commerce businesses grow. So last year, about this time, actually, we said to ourselves, we had a bunch of e-commerce clients. We said, look, we don't just want to be another agency. Like, we really want to double down on something that's impactful, that can make a difference. And at the same time, we want to separate ourselves from everybody else. And that's when we decided to purely focus on e-commerce.
I love it. And, your story is so inspiring, because I love how you said you actually, you made a choice to actually invest in your career. You invested in your next. And I think it's so inspiring for those of us that are on here today, that are maybe, either one, you're employed and you're looking for your next. Maybe this is just the wake-up call that you need. Invest that R1,000 a month into ads and niche down on a business, and let's get moving. So I'm going to jump straight into it, because obviously the next question is then for them. What structures need to be in place to run a successful online business?
So, we can talk about structures, but I think the number one thing that comes before structure, and you could probably include it in a structure if you want, but you really need a good product. Like, you can't just be, trying to rub something off on a customer anymore. Like, we're in an industry that's super competitive, and we only work with a handful of clients, that people that qualify to really work with us, purely because of the fact that they have a proven product, they have a good model, they actually understand how business works. And one of the biggest key factors is really finding a product that people actually want, or a brand that people want, or a series of products that people want. And I think, or really selling something that people find attractive at the end of the day. Like, you really need a good USP. Like, what is the main reason people should shop from you? And I think sometimes, we get the barrier to entry when it comes to e-commerce is so low, so anybody can start an e-commerce store. And I think we get excited when we see we can actually grow a business online, and we can work from home. But we forget that it's just as much, it just takes as much effort as the next thing. So a good product, a good offer is really important. Like what makes you unique in the marketplace. And aside from that, normal structures. You need a good looking and a good performing website. You need to have your marketing channels up. You need to be focusing on. There's only two ways to grow an e-commerce business. And if I'm going to oversimplify it for everybody, but you need to get customers and you need to get them coming back every single month. So, or at least as often as possible. So it's really about finding a customer at a low cost and then getting that customer to give you as much of his money as possible over a period of 12 months, and then you repeat the cycle every 12 months. And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day.
I love it. And you've actually mentioned something I was going to ask much later, but I'm going to jump to this part of the question, which is how do you source a good product? What are your tips and tricks to sourcing a good product?
Yeah, there's only one answer to that, and it's testing. Like it's you can make some assumptions. You can go onto Amazon and see what's one of their top selling products. You can go on Wish, you can go on Alibaba, and you can look at ratings and what's new. But the only way you're going to really find out what works is you're going to have to test. And there's obviously affordable ways to do that. Like with Facebook ads, you can put 20, 30, 40, 50 Rand a day behind a specific product, and you can start testing these things. And it's really just about doing that at scale. And that's how you actually scale a business. You'll find that there's something called the 80-20 principle, meaning that only 20% are actually making me money versus trying to sell everything that I stock online. And I think that is a misconception everybody has when it comes to the online products. They want to sell everything to everyone, but only in reality, there's only a handful of products that are going to do well, and you need to get over the ones that are not selling well and cut your losses and move on and start testing other products for the market. Yeah.
And tell me, I've heard this term being flung around quite a bit, but an evergreen funnel. Can you take us through that and how for a business who's maybe starting out or people are running it as a side hustle, how does an evergreen funnel work and how does it benefit them?
So, I mean, the word evergreen means it's something that you can run all the time. And the word funnel is really just anything that's going to get you from point A to point B. So, like, how can we get someone from point A to point B? Point A could be anything. Point A could be the checkout process, and point B could be someone putting in those beautiful 16 digits of their credit card details so they can become a customer. Point A could be your landing page, and point B could be the submission of an email. So to be honest with you, an evergreen funnel, it's more something we use in lead gen more than anything else. It's something I use for our own business. Where we run webinar ads or whatever it may be, and we create like a little bit of an environment where people can get an understanding of who we are as a business. And that funnel would then take them into our lead system, where they would then book a call with our sales team. And then that funnel would then take them into, a demo presentation where we would, show them exactly how our services work and what cost it's going to, work out at. When you speak about a funnel in e-commerce, it's really a situation of getting as much revenue from the customer as possible. Meaning, if someone comes to buy a product, how can you create a series of events that, while you have their attention, how can you create a series of events that could potentially help them with an upsell or a bump offer or an offer bump or anything like that to increase the average order value? So the only real reason you would want to use a funnel, strategically, in my opinion, for an e-commerce business is to increase the average order value of the customers that you actually generate. So, for example, you buy an iPhone online, and it's a situation, not that everybody buys an iPhone. Most people go to the store, but just for the sake of the conversation, you buy an iPhone online, and then the next thing that happens is like, okay, cool, add it to your cart, sweet. And then as you add it to your cart, you go to a page where it says, hey, you just picked the iPhone 12 Pro Max, whatever. Here's a beautiful cover to go with your iPhone 12 Pro Max, because the last thing you want is obviously, for it to drop and then break because you're going to cry.
In like $3,000.
So here's, for an extra, $400 or $500, here's a cover. And then as you add the cover, the next thing that pops up and says, hey, do you want insurance? Just in case your cover doesn't work and your screen still cracks. Do you want, insurance for 100 Rand a month? And then before you know it, you've bought a phone, you've bought a cover, and you've bought insurance. And that's really how you get the most amount of revenue out of a customer. And that's really what a funnel is all about from an e-commerce perspective, if that makes sense.
No, that's super insightful, and thank you for clarifying that actually, because I love the fact that you mentioned it was strategic. You don't just apply a funnel to every part of your website and journey, and I love that because I think a lot of people get very confused when they hear the word funnel because, it can become very overwhelming. But I'm sure you've also noticed, sorry.
No, I need to add something, and that is that, till today, like I invest in myself, and like a lot of people in the business know that last year I spent a fortune on coaching. I learned from the best in the industry, and I'm talking about worldwide. People overseas that are really good at what they do when it comes to growing agencies and all that kind of stuff. And the one guy was literally my coach, actually, my mentor. He said to me, Jandre, it's simple, it's not easy. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, building a business or scaling an agency is simple. It's just not easy. And when I unpacked the words for myself, we overcomplicate everything. The human mind is designed to overcomplicate everything. So what you do is when you go online, there's like 10 different things that teaches you how to drive traffic, and you want to implement all 10 of them, as opposed to just stepping back and go, okay, what is the one that's actually going to make the most impact in my business? And I think when people hear the word funnel, it's the exact same thing. They like get overly excited, and then they start complicating things for themselves, like what software should I use, what landing page should I use, what booking calendar software should I use, and before you know it, you've complicated the whole process, as opposed to just simplifying it for yourself and going, all you need to do is get someone to say yes, and then move on to the next phase, and that's literally it. I just needed to put that in there because we as human beings like to overcomplicate everything for ourselves.
No, 100%. And like, I'm sitting here laughing and you're just like all the software, and I'm just like the amount of subscriptions you go through, just trying to find the right software and programs, obviously to help your business. But yeah, 100%. For those of you joining, hi Agman, Kent. Oh, sorry, there's a few people that joined. For those of you that have just joined, we are chatting to Jandre de Beer, the founder and CEO of V8 Media. And we are chatting about, running an online business. So if you do have any questions, please drop them below. But I'm going to hop into the next question. So again, as well, you know how booming our industry is. And obviously, like you mentioned, there are low barriers to entry. A lot of the people that I've come across obviously started their e-commerce store when they found a bit of time now during the pandemic, or they've been laid off, or whatever the case may be. But majority of them that I have come across are running them as a side hustle. And I think, from some of the webinars that I've seen you run, it's a very hands-on approach you need to have to running a business versus just starting an online business. And I think maybe just for those that are still running it as a side hustle, what are like the important like day-to-day or crucial activities that you kind of need to be on top of to make sure that your store like remains successful, even though you don't have, the luxury of time?
Yeah, so let's for argument's sake say that you've got a good product and people want it and they love buying it from you. Then it's really a matter of making sure that you consistently get new customers coming through the door. So that is literally the only way to scale your business. Like there is no other way. Like you need to get customers. So the first thing is, how do you consistently get customers? Well, if you want to do it predictably, you need to spend money on advertising. Yeah, you can depend on SEO and you can depend on email, but it's not as predictable as putting budget into a platform that can predictably, spit out new customers. So I would say the first thing that you need to grasp as someone who's running a business, and if it's a side hustle, is really getting your paid ads to allow you to start generating new customers. So Facebook ads, Google ads, those are the first things that I would upskill myself on if I was anybody running an e-commerce business, and I would figure out how to essentially get those customers at the cheapest cost. And then the second thing is, how can you make more money from your customers? So that is really a task where you look at your email marketing. Am I sending enough emails? This is the biggest thing people neglect because it's the most tedious to go and think and sit through. It's like, okay, what emails am I going to send this week? So what do? We completely forget about sending emails and we go, oh shit, it's payday. Let me quickly pop a random product and a discount and hope for the best. So like email is a beautiful tool. SMS is a beautiful tool. All these things can really help you, increase the lifetime value of your customer. And that's really what growing an online business is all about. What is the lifetime value of that customer? Because you might make a loss at acquiring that customer in the first month or the second month, but if they come back in month 3 and month 6 or whatever, you start making a profit on them. And that's purely based on email and SMS and remarketing. So getting to the question, without digressing too much, if you're running a side hustle, if it's a side hustle, then you need to spend time and energy and free time on learning how to run paid ads to get those customers predictably through the door. And the second thing I would focus on is really improving your SMS and email marketing skills so that you can increase the lifetime value of a customer. And then obviously logistics, but there are ways to outsource your logistics. I mean, you got Parcel Ninja. There are other ways to really streamline that process. But logistics is a big thing. We've seen that a lot of companies come to us, and in the beginning, we weren't as great as qualifying clients, and we still learn our lessons on a monthly basis. But we've had a lot of people who were ready to scale from a product perspective, but the logistics just weren't sorted out. So having a creditable logistics partner obviously helps essentially as well. But yeah, I hope that adds a bit of value to anybody out there.
No, and what you're saying actually ties into what I was, I guess, watching last week. I attended virtually, obviously, Ecom Africa. Yeah, and great panelists and speakers that from all over Africa, predominantly East Africa and SADC. And one of I think it must have been the CEO of Faithful to Nature. He had mentioned that as Africa, we obviously aren't seeing a lot of unique ideas anymore because we take the lead often from our US and European counterparts. So I think maybe for some of those that again are watching this live, what advice can you give to those whose, I want to say, proposed or with market or segment essentially is like super saturated or it's super competitive?
Yeah.
How do they differentiate themselves? How do you still go ahead even though you've got like 5 competitors who have been in the game for 2 to 3 years?
So, look, I think the best way to do that is essentially creating a message that people can resonate with. And I think, you can. There's a ton of different, jewelry companies out there. But we have a specific client who's doing extremely well. She literally went from 300K, 400K a month to close to $1 million a month. And it's because people resonate with her story. People resonate with what she does as an individual on an every single day basis and her mission in the world. So it's really a situation where, the jewelry industry is completely saturated, but yet there's this individual who's doing extremely well and who's continuously growing. In a situation, what is she doing correctly? Well, what she's doing, she's getting people to resonate with her and understand the bigger picture of her business. So if you're in a saturated industry, then you really need a unique message and you really need a unique voice. And people need to be able to resonate with that voice, and that voice needs to be attached to something that's sentimental to them. And that's really the best thing that I can think of. Aside from that, you've got USPs like maybe you've got better shipping policies, maybe return policies, maybe you've got, like Zappos did this in America. They did this extremely well. They were one of the first companies to say, order 6 pairs of shoes and send 5 of them back, and everybody was selling shoes online, and they were like, well, order as many as you want, just pay for one and fit the ones on that fit all the shoes on, and only pick the pair that you like and just send others back. And I think it's really finding a way to stand out of the crowd. Like, we're in an industry where everybody is trying to shout louder than their competitors, but what we actually should be doing is we should really just play a melody that our customers want to hear. And that's really just what it comes down to at the end of the day in a very saturated market. So there's nothing else for you to do as opposed to, and my thoughts are running at 1,000 miles an hour, but the biggest problem we have is that everybody is trying to slice their price. So it's a race to the bottom on price, where nobody's actually making any money. Like, we're all looking for the customer, but the customer is not as loyal as you want them to be. So it's a situation where today they shop from Takealot, tomorrow they shop from this company, and tomorrow they shop from that company, because the customer is in a very dire economy, so they're not going to be as loyal as you want them to be, even though you're overly romantic about it. So it's a situation where it's not always a race to the bottom on price, because it's not necessarily what's going to help you grow. But if people resonate with you and they understand the message of the business and the vision of the business, like Simon Sinek wrote it in a book. Like, he wrote the book Start With Why. Most amazing. So essentially, like, what is your why? Why do you exist? And people will attach to that, and they will happily pay 10, 20, 30 rand, 100 rand extra to be attached to that mission and vision, essentially, down the line. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen overnight.
And I love that. I love that you mentioned that it doesn't happen overnight. Running a business, and for those of you that are entrepreneurs know how grueling it is, how, it's long nights. It's, I was going to say the return always takes a lot longer, but it's like that sweet, euphorious joy that you experience, and then you're back 100%. To the grinding stone again.
100%.
And, I was, again, sorry, listening to Warwick Kearns last week. So for those of you that don't know who Warwick Kearns is, he is the CEO of Insaka E-commerce Academy, which I think was one of the very few in the beginning when, e-commerce became a big thing in the country. So what is Heloise saying? Value creation. Yes, 100% Heloise, value creation. When you do, obviously, start your business or when you are in the, I want to say, the brand development phase as well. But yeah, sorry, going back to Warwick Kearns, he had mentioned two pieces of information or two stats, essentially, he mentioned in his talk to us at Ecom Africa. And he said, on average, in South Africa, this is just in a South African context, you need an average of 800 sales a month to make your first sale. And the second one was that in South Africa, 1% conversion is actually considered good. So I actually wanted to, come back to you. I just feel like you are quite the heavy hitter in this space. And what are some of your KPIs or, benchmarks that you would have us, I just want to say, measure our store success against? Because is 800 enough? Is 1% okay to settle for? Because it just, I don't know, it doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, so I mean, to be honest with you, Warwick is a good acquaintance of mine, and we get along really well. And I agree with what he said. But I think at the end of the day, like every business is unique, really, and it's a situation where we've got clients who sell. So if we had to, for example, talk about average order value, and you had to say, okay, cool, what is the average order value of a store in South Africa? You've got clients selling TVs at $5,000 a TV. So is that, and then you've got clients who sell jewelry at 200 Rand, a ticket item. So it's really a matter of like when you say there's an average, order value of $900, which I would be considered average in South Africa. If you can get an order value of $900, I'm confident that you'll have a profitable business depending on your margins. But it's a situation where it's so unfair to look at averages. Like we have to, because we need to guide where our business is going, but every single business is unique. But to be straight to the point with your question, 0.8 to 1.3% is an average conversion rate, what we see in the industry. So if you go between 0.8 to 1.3, you're doing all right. We have clients who sit with 5.7% conversion rate. So and it's just got nothing to do with, this has got nothing to do with VA Media. It's just because they had that before us. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's got nothing to do with how amazing we are. It's really just a situation where their stores are really, really doing well, and they've got really good product, and people want it, and people are willing to endure a slow site and a friction at checkout in order to buy that product. And I think in essence, we get too fixated on benchmarks sometimes, and we tend to think everything is okay, as opposed to looking at, hey, how can I constantly keep improving whatever I'm doing? Because what I've seen is people go, hey, my conversion rate is 1.3%. Okay, cool, let's move on to the next thing. No, for all you know, that your conversion rate could be 5%. So you could be making 5 times more revenue, but you were looking at a benchmark and you went like, okay, cool, well, I can go sleep. I can go sleep now because my conversion rates are average. So there's nothing else for me to do. And I think, it's really a matter of how can you constantly learn and improve and test and improve in order to really maximize every single metric for your business itself. Like, how can you get it the highest and the most profitable for your own business? But yeah, based on averages, 0.8 to 1.3 is probably average. We ideally always aim for the 1.5 to 2% mark. We believe we're an agency, so we should be able to get there in some way, shape, or form, whether it is with strategic, better ads or better funnels or whatever it may be. But I think it's definitely accurate what was shared, to be honest with you.
Amazing. Okay, no, that's great. You mentioned something earlier on, sorry, and it was regarding ads. I know you initially started out with doing 1,000 Rand a month when you first started out. But for businesses, I almost want to say that are new, maybe in their first year, what is like the average budget? And I know it obviously varies depending on the products you're selling or the services, but what is an average budget somebody can, assume to spend on a monthly basis on social media ads, for example?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, again, like average is all relative to what your disposable income is. And I think it's when I say average, it's like, what do you really mean with it? And I think without unpacking that too much and then going too deep into that rabbit hole, I think if you're starting out, in order to move the needle, let's rephrase the question like this. What is really necessary as a minimum to move the needle for your business if you've got a side hustle?
Yeah.
I think, to be honest with you, if you're going to be spending less than $3,000 a month on your Facebook ads, or Google ads, it might take some time to really get to where you want to be. We've seen clients who have really amazing products who started at 2 grand a month. We have clients who are spending, who's 10 grand a month, is getting no results because, you know, it's just like they come to us and like, guys, we're spending 10, 20 grand a month, we've got no results. But if you can spend 3 to 5 grand a month on your ads, I'm very confident that you're going to make it work somehow. You will be generating enough data, because what paid ads is all about and what marketing budget is all about, it's about seeing how the market responds to what you're saying and what you're doing. That's really what it comes down to. So if we have to oversimplify this, is how much money can you spend and how much can you learn from what you spent in order to optimize your marketing in any way, shape, or form for next month. And ideally, if you spend too little, the data that you get back is very little, which means that the optimization is going to take much longer, which means that you're not necessarily going to get to where you would want to be in 3 or 4 months' time. So one thing that what my coach actually told me when we were starting, you know, running ads for our agency, he said, Jandre, what can you afford to spend on your marketing? I said, well, you know what, we're going to spend 10K. We can spend 20K, and then we're stretching it a bit. He goes, spend 20K in 2 weeks. So I was like, what the hell do you mean?
What?
He goes, so what he was getting at, he was saying, take your monthly budget and spend it in 2 weeks. Because as opposed to taking that monthly budget and stretching it over 30 days, you're just prolonging the learning process for 2 more weeks. So rather take the money, get the data, optimize accordingly, and then hopefully you've got, you know, you can optimize from there and learn from what you've learned. So it's really a situation. It's not applicable to everybody. Not everybody can obviously afford to spend the whole budget or whatever it may be, but it's all relative to how much you can get back in terms of data and how you can use that data in order to optimize. And if you're going to spend anything less than 3 grand a month on your Facebook ads, the amount of data that you'll be able to generate and optimize accordingly to grow is going to be very little, and it might just prolong the process overall, if that makes sense.
No, that definitely makes sense. And gosh, your coach is hectic. I was just like 20K in 2 weeks.
No,
but
like, I mean, it's
understand
all
the thinking behind it.
It's all relative to our revenue and everything else. But I mean, it's a situation where it doesn't mean if you're making 10 grand revenue that you should spend 20K. He was like, what can you afford comfortably to spend? And I was like, well, in the next month we can spend 20K. So he's like, okay, take your 20K and spend it in 2 weeks. And it was a situation where I was like, I got so super nervous, but I realized by just spending the money quicker, we were able to generate a lot more data and we were able to optimize quicker. And we actually got results from it. So we took the money that we made from the results and we optimized. And, you know, it's just a situation where you need to learn. Like, it's not just about spending a budget. Like, why are you spending this budget and how can you maximize it? So how much data can you generate back in order to optimize the whole process for your business? That's really what it comes down to.
And I think just a key learning for those of you that are watching, you know, there is you spending 20K, but there's you spending 20K strategically. I think don't just go ahead and spend 20K and you have no idea how to run ads. You're just going to flush your money down the toilet.
So keep in mind, like, I've been running ads for 10 years. So it's a situation where, I mean, I started. So when he obviously, with my experience, there was a lot more, I would say, insight and strategy that went into that 20K. Yeah. But I think if you're in a situation where you have no skill and you have no idea what you're doing, then obviously you need to upskill yourself first before you start waiting budget, or start very slow, but be okay with the fact that it's going to take time. I mean, if it's a side hustle, then you're probably not in a rush anyway because you've got a mainstream of income. So it's really a situation where, by being patient, you're essentially going to get to where you need to be. But it's a trade-off. Everything in life is a trade-off. There's no wrong or right. There's no binary yes or no. It's a trade-off. That's all life is. If you want to spend 20K, the trade-off is, you know, you might be out 20K and have no money left for the rest of the month. If you want to spend little amount of money on your marketing, the trade-off is it's going to take longer to generate results and data in order for you to optimize. So with that said, like, I'm one of those guys that hate the word expert, and I hate like when people say, what is the best advice? Like, there's no really good advice. Like, there's frameworks of advice, and you can find that probably anywhere. And then there's granular insight, obviously, that you learn here and there. But essentially, it's all contextual to your environment and where you are. So take what I say and contextualize it to your own environment. So you need to understand what I say so you can contextualize it. And a lot of people take what you say and they are like a parrot. He said we need to spend 3 grand on marketing. No, not at all. You need to understand what someone is saying so you can contextualize it for your own business and then grow from there. at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure this life out for ourselves, right? Like we pretend to, like if you're on social media, everybody's pretend like they've got life figured out. Nobody's got life figured out. Nobody's got business figured out. Yeah, some people are on level 1 and some people are on level 10. And ideally, the people on level 10 are trying to help the people on level 1. And then there's people on level 10 who's trying to scam the people on level 1. But essentially, it's just, we're all just trying to figure shit out for ourselves, to be honest with you. And without digressing too much in a philosophical view now, it's just something I'm quite passionate about.
No, 100%, and I agree with it so much. Again, sorry, I'm keep going back to what you had mentioned in the beginning as well. And I just love how you also, like you mentioned, you invest in yourself, number one, and you upskilled, like obviously using the resources that were available. You didn't essentially go for the coach immediately. You learned how to do it on your own first before outsourcing the help. And I think that was actually quite a big topic last week as well at Ecom Africa. Learn how to do ads yourself before you give your money to an agency. Learn how to, look at your website stats and, figure out your logistics and your whole customer journey. Try and do it yourself first before, you waste, no, not say waste, before you invest 50K, but you actually are so unsure about your business. And I think you mentioned it as well, that you had a client that tried to give you, like, if they set up the business, they're like, okay, you just run it now. And that's not how it should be.
No, so funny enough, so where we are with our businesses, we have a done for you division and we have a done with you division. And funny story is, like, the done for you division, people would get so upset with us because we didn't want to take their money, because they see all these other clients' results and then they go, but we want the same results and we're willing to pay for it. I'm like, but that's not how it works. Like, your product sucks and your margins are not good enough. So all we're going to do is we're going to take your money and you're not going to get the results, which means we're going to be one of those agencies that you hate after 90 days and you're going to leave a bad review on Google. So if you go look at our reviews, like, we have like 30 odd reviews. Like, literally there's 2 1-star reviews of people who we've never even met. It's probably competitors who are annoyed with us or whatever. I don't know what it is. But it's really, we care, but we would rather not take your money, sleep at night, knowing that your money is safe, as opposed to taking it and go, well, we couldn't generate the results. And the economy has put pressure on everybody. And this is just my point of view. The economy has put pressure on business owners. Business owners have become more desperate, and agencies have become more desperate to sign clients. So what happens? The business owner is desperate, so they're willing to invest in an agency who's supposed to know what they're doing. And the agency is desperate because they have no clients, so they're going to take your money whether they believe whether you're a good fit or not. And that's really the reality that we live in right now. It's like, business owners are desperate. They're willing to throw Hail Mary passes and invest, the little bit of savings that they have left in order to make it work. And the agencies have no sales, so they're really in a situation where they're going to take that money. And if it doesn't work out, and that's really what's happening in our industry, and it's so sad to see. And that's why we launched a Done With You division, where we actually tell the clients, look, you're not a fit for our Done For You division. And people have gotten upset about this. And then we go, look, let's join our coaching program. Literally show you exactly how to do these things yourself, because 2 things are going to happen. You're going to learn the survival skills of the future, 1. 2, you're going to have lifetime access to the content, so it's something that you can pass on to a staff business grows. And 3, at the end of the day, if you ever had to hire an agency, you're going to know when you're getting scammed or not. So, like, there's so much value in really investing in your own business and investing in yourself. And I think we all want the easy way out. So we just want to pay someone and hope for the best. We don't want the difficult route, and the difficult route is to figure out how to do this stuff yourself, or to get someone to show you how to do this stuff yourself. And then if your business is at a point where you can actually scale and take things to the next level, that's fine. And I'm going to be very honest with you, and I don't want to take too much of your time on this specific topic, but I need to say this, like, as an agency, there are really good agencies out there, and I believe that we're obviously one of them, but a lot of our clients would have had the results that they've had with or without us. And the reason I say that is because they are the business owners who would find a way to make it work, whether they had an agency or whether they didn't have an agency. And in essence, in our line of work, you get agencies take all the credit for their clients' growth to some extent. But I can honestly tell you now, like, a lot of our clients would have had the growth that they had with or without us, because we just amplified the whole process for them. So we just got them to where they wanted to be quicker. But they would have gotten there eventually because they have a good product. They are good business people, and they have good margins, and they understand that it's a long-term game. So I think at the end of the day, there's no magic bullet, and you have to be patient and invest in yourself, because it's really the only way to grow. And if you feel like you need an agency, like we have a lot of clients who say, look, guys, it's a convenience thing. We need this. And then we have people who really have no other mean of resource to do it. So there's not a perfect, how can I say, like way to say, like, this is the right time to get an agency. Like, you'll know. And then that agency would hopefully add a lot of value to your business. And I think people just want an agency because it's easy. And I think that should be just like scrapped from the table completely.
Yeah, and I need to applaud your transparency and your integrity. You're like, again, you mentioned there are not many agencies that are like this, and I appreciate that because I think, again, as a small business owner, you only have that much capital or, disposable income to invest. So when you do happen to hand it over to an agency, you are literally trusting them with your livelihood, to some extent. And I mean, it's quite a heavy burden to carry, but like I said, like the fact that you have integrity about it and the way you go about it, it's applaudable. So I love that.
Look, I mean, we're not perfect.
Yeah,
no, I just want to say, like, we by no means perfect. But one thing nobody can take away from us is that we do try our best. Like, that is, and that's what I tell my team is, like, as long as we've tried our best, there are clients like who just, we couldn't make it work. There was no way of making it work. And as long as I can sit with the team and do a brief and go, guys, did we really try our best? And as long as we can tick all the boxes, then we know we can sleep at night and we know that we've really tried our best. But there are, that's why we have a strict qualification process, because we don't want to go through that. We don't want, for us, it's also more profitable to keep a client than to lose a client. So that's why we over scrutinize and over qualify our clients, even though we're not perfect at it. But that's why it's so important. And I think anybody in the agency game would probably have the same amount of gray hairs than me or more, because it's a stressful game, because you deal with people's businesses, especially if you're in the SME space. Like, it's people's livelihoods. It's not just theirs, but it's their families, their kids, like their futures. Like, it's a lot that goes into it.
It's a lot. No, it really is. Sorry, I'm going back to some of the things you had mentioned. But for those of you, again, sorry, that are watching, again, you were mentioning upskilling and investing in yourself. Jandre actually has a whole e-commerce academy already set up. And I know Thursday he has his Black Friday. Is it Thursday that you have your Black Friday bootcamp?
Yeah, but I've got some sad news. Like, I had to cancel that. There's some stuff that's popped up, and there should be an email going out. But I'm planning on doing one next week.
Okay.
But more information on that.
But there's your free CRO course, right? You've got a free CRO course that's currently live on the site.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to check out, get a taste of what's really in our program, then they can go onto our website, beardmedia.co.za, and there's a free CRO course that you can enroll for. And that is literally a small bite of what is entailed, when you join our program. But yeah, like, our program is really a done with you program. It's really just a situation where we take your hand and walk the road with you. It's not a course. I actually don't like the word course. I don't like the word program, but there's nothing really that explains it good enough, because the term program and course both have been, like, labeled and categorized. But we really just do it with you. And I think the only way to get an understanding is to be in the program. And we've got a 14-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. Like, if you don't like what you find, if you don't like what we do, and if you've got no value, then we just refund you, no questions asked. So if anybody was interested, they can always just reach out to me and I'll send them some more information.
Yeah, that's super valuable. I think the CRO course has like 51 lessons in it, so it's amazing. Awesome. Do it.
I'm glad.
Do it for yourself. Do it for your business.
I'm assuming you obviously had a look at it.
Of course. No, guys, please. I consume data and knowledge daily. Like, if it's not you, it's Warren. I've actually moved away from watching the guys in the States, because that's what happened last year when I first started my e-commerce business. And I just got so frustrated, because I'm just like, I need something that's localized. This information really doesn't appeal to me at all. So when I found you guys, not found you, but found Warren as well, I was just like, oh, this helps so much. So everything that is, like I said, localized data, I'm here for it. I'm about to dive into the Roger Wilco report that they released recently on e-commerce.
Yeah.
I'm going to read through all of that. I think like a whole 32 pages, if not more. But yeah, no, I absolutely love learning about this space. And that's why, again, every Tuesday I'm trying to just, connect aspiring entrepreneurs and those that are in the space and just looking to scale or don't know what the next step is. Maybe they unfortunately looking at bankruptcy, there's just so many different tips and tricks that you can use to apply to your business. And I think just being able to give that knowledge to people freely to some extent, we can all help each other. And I think as South Africa as a whole, we have that community. We are people that are trying to, uplift communities, help one another. And I think that's what I can really commend about our country, actually. But before I digress too much.
No, please.
So sorry, bring it back to my questions that I sent you before the time. Again, for those that are maybe either in product development or, they towards the end where they're just about to launch, from a marketing aspect, and maybe actually from like a technical, from a website standpoint as well, for a successful launch, what needs to be considered? Because obviously I know, let's go through your customer journey, testing your payment gateways and that, but what else can we add to successful launch? And maybe also from a marketing side, should we look at influencer campaigns?
Yeah, so look, I mean, from a launch perspective, you've got the technical side of it and you've got the psychological side of it. And again, I like oversimplifying things. So there's really two ways to grow your business. And the two pillars are technology, and the other one is psychology. Now, sometimes we depend too much on the technology. So we make technology 70% of the equation, because we look at what Shopify or WooCommerce. We figure out what payment gateway we want to use. We figure out what software we want to use. We figure out what payment channels we want to use, Facebook ads, Google ads, whatever. And what I've learned is that the actual equation is 70% psychology and 30% technology. So getting back to your question, if you're planning a launch, like really understanding what product you have and how it benefits other people's lives, and really understanding who you're going to target and how they, average day looks like, will allow you to resonate with them like nobody else can. So before you launch, specifically from a marketing perspective, is like, do you really understand? Like, we've had people launch products and I mean, I'm just going to use some examples, like sports nutrition is quite a saturated example, collagen space now, the beauty space. Like, we had people in the past who launched a collagen brand just for the sake of launching a collagen brand. Like, there's no real unique selling point. So you need to be like, okay, cool, we're going to launch a collagen brand. This is the actual unique selling points of the brand. This is essentially the benefits and how it's improving specific, category of people's lives. And this is the exact people who we want to target. And this is exactly how their days look like. And this is how we're going to be able to communicate with them. And I think when it comes to a launch, we just neglect all of that. And we go, payment system set up, email system set up, all these things are great. And we completely neglect the psychological element of what actually generates results. And I think from a launch perspective, it's so important to get that. Aside from that, it's a situation where, if you look at the technical side, like, is your website a good performing site? Is your site speed, at least, and the average benchmark of, if you had to do a Google website speed test, like, do you at least have a 50 or a 60 out of 100? If you had to test your site, if you've sent your site to a couple of friends, could they easily find a specific product and could they check out without any issues? When you've abandoned your cart, did you actually get a couple of abandoned cart reminders reminding you, bringing you back to get that product? Did you actually think about the copy that you're going to write for your specific ad, for that specific product? I mean, there's a ton of stuff that you should be doing pre-launch, and I think we overlook technology, or we overlook psychology because we focus so much on the technology element of it. But from a technological perspective, you just need a good site that's clean, that is performing well, and that's easy to navigate. Aside from obviously the products and all the other stuff that goes with it. Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense and adds a bit of value to anybody.
No, that does. I'm going to ask another question, but I was going to say it's like really off the top of my head, and you can answer it anyway. But it's always, and people are always asking me this: Shopify versus WooCommerce. Which one do you prefer? And I know there's so many like variables that you have to take into consideration. WooCommerce being like open source essentially, and you kind of have to have the know-how on how to build sites, and Shopify kind of being a paid-for-you service. But just in terms of, I think what looks good, what you've seen performs well, and maybe that again is based on product, But just from
Yeah.
a technology standpoint, we've got Shoptimizer, for example, on WooCommerce as a theme, which has the SEO done in the background. It loads pretty quick. It's a standard storefront, essentially, where with Shopify, they've got a few more pretty themes, and it's, especially if you've got like a wellness brand, you can really curate it beautifully. But just in your opinion, from functionality or whatever standpoint you want to take.
Let me give you a straight answer, and then let me give you a little bit more of an open-ended answer. So the straightforward answer is that Shopify has higher conversion rates, period. Like, we've seen that Shopify on average, if you're someone who doesn't know what they're doing and you had to go and set up a WooCommerce or a Shopify store, your Shopify store is going to have higher conversion rates. And that's purely because of the checkout process. The checkout process on Shopify is completely seamless. Where WooCommerce, it's a lot more, because it's open source, there's a lot more things that you can move around and it's a lot more agile. But with that agility, if you don't know what you're doing, you end up creating a mess. So if you're someone starting out, I would happily pay the extra fee for Shopify knowing that I'm going to have better conversions because I'm going to spend money on my marketing and I'm going to get more money back on my marketing. And then it just becomes a numbers game. And people look at the percentages and they go, look, at the end of the day, you bank rands. You don't bank percentages. Like, you bank money, hard cash into the bank. And that's what you need to keep in mind when it comes to these things. The more open-minded question the more open-minded answer is, WooCommerce, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Android devices or iPhone devices?
Oh, I'm an Android user. I don't like iPhone at
all.
all.
So you will most likely prefer WooCommerce. Why? Because Android is the WooCommerce of the world and iPhone is the Shopify of the world. That's really how you should look at it. So Android is really just WooCommerce, and it's open source. You can plug it into everything like to some extent, but you also have a higher chance of messing things up. And you also have, so if you're someone who's very technically inclined and you have a team who likes to customize stuff and wants to move, then obviously WooCommerce is going to be great. Like, if you're someone who wants to plug your phone into everything that you can find, and then an Android device is going to be amazing. If you're someone who just wants to turn your phone on and have it work, iPhone is going to be amazing. Therefore, Shopify is going to be amazing. So it's really just a more open-minded answer or open-ended answer. But if the answer is what store's got the highest percentage of conversion rates, if you're someone who's got no experience and had to start a store, I can promise you now, if you're going to go to WordPress versus WooCommerce, WooCommerce versus Shopify, Shopify is going to have higher conversion rates. I'm happy to put money on the table.
No, the reason I was asking, because funny enough, I had moved away from Shopify, not because it wasn't great or anything. I just needed more customization. So I built websites, so that's why I moved 100%. Over to WooCommerce. I was just like, could not deal with Shopify.
And that's why I asked, like, are you Android? And that's why I asked, are you Android or iOS? When you said Android, I was like, you obviously a WooCommerce fan. Like, it just it's the exact same thing.
I love that psychology thing. I had no idea. I was just like, that makes sense, actually, how you'd actually, like, the whole anecdote. But for those that are actually bootstrapping, and this was actually something I noticed last year, with bootstrapping. When it comes to Shopify, it actually can be a bit more expensive in the sense of your subscription fees, and then over and above, having to pay for your for every product sold, essentially, there's like a transaction fee over and above. So for bootstrapping, do you then recommend that you kind of just sit tight and, hang on to that subscription, or do you try to, one, either find an agency to build your site, or two, learn how to build a WooCommerce site yourself? Because I know bootstrapping, again, we're dealing with an economy that's quite shaky.
So again, there's no binary way of looking at this, because bootstrapping for one person is completely a bootstrapping, for another person is completely two different things. One person has got 2,000 a month and they're bootstrapping, and one person has got 20,000 disposable income and they're bootstrapping. So it's really a situation where if you've got under $3,000 a month, and it's a situation where that's all you have, and live or die, that's all you're probably going to have for the next 2 or 3 months, then Shopify, to some extent, is going to be tough, because obviously you have to pay the subscription and you have to pay a higher percentage on fees or whatever the case may be. So learning WooCommerce is probably not the end of the world. But the problem I see with this is that your conversion rates, because you're not technically inclined, or because you're not an expert at customizing your checkout process, your conversion rates are probably going to be lower. So when you're actually going to take the money that you have, you've got now more money for marketing, but you're going to get less return because your conversion rate is essentially not going to be what you want it to be. So that's where I would look at, what are you selling, that's the average order value going to be. And I'm the worst person to ask a question. And the reason is, I actually had a client 2 years ago, and he said, Jandre, I hate asking you questions. I was like, why? He goes, because you go so deep into the question that, and when you actually, when I walk out of the room, like, I'm actually more confused than I should have been. Like, it's almost like, just tell me yes or no. Like, look, essentially it's not just about yes or no. It's really like, if you say yes to this, there's pros and cons to every single decision. And what my job is to educate you on all the different pros and cons, and then you need to decide what's best for your business. If you really have no idea what's best for your business because you're just too lazy to think and too lazy to process these things, then I am going to give you advice. However, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best advice. It's because, it's really just a situation where you need to always contextualize information to yourself. So if there's two scenarios, if you're under 3,000 Rand a month, then Shopify might be a little bit tricky to run. But I'm against the WooCommerce thing purely because of the fact that it's a situation where not everybody's going to have the same appetite and response to it. So if you are someone who enjoys the technical side of things like yourself, and someone who enjoys the learning process, and then yeah, I would say go for WooCommerce. If you're someone who hates that and is not for it and just wants something that works and is happy to pay a little bit extra for it, then Shopify is going to be the way to go. You just now need to find out how to drive traffic at a lower cost, because you're going to have less money for marketing. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to go, okay, who can I give my product for that's going to give some shout outs so I can start, generating some traffic. But the beauty of that is you're going to probably have a higher conversion rate. So you are going to make some sales back. So everything in life is a trade-off at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I like that. And just actually to add to that, and now that I think about it, WooCommerce is also only great if you have a stock standard store. Like, you can't have subscriptions because that's extra. You can't, oh gosh, there's so many things. There's so many different modules you have to pay for, and it's not cheap. They start from anything from $250 up, and you're just like, wow. So if you just have a stock standard store, or you're selling virtual or downloadable product, it's fine for that. Yeah. Other than that, if you want, fancy things like subscriptions, Shopify is in your baby. Rather go there.
There's another element to Shopify that we tend to neglect because it's not as sexy, and that is that Shopify has its own service. So it's really a situation where WooCommerce, come Black Friday, you shoot the lights out, but all you might go down because you hosted with Hesna and you haven't really increased your bandwidth or your server package with them, and it's a situation where now you're screwed because your site's down and it's capitalizing moment for you. What I like about Shopify is that they really just allocate resources as you need them, and the amount of Shopify sites that go down versus people that are on WooCommerce, because WooCommerce is not a self-hosted site. You do your own hosting. So WooCommerce is just a platform that you plug into your hosting and service provider, where Shopify you actually host with them. So yeah, you can have a Hesna site, but the actual DNS points to Shopify, and those resources will be allocated as needed, meaning that the odds of you going down is literally 0 to none. Is literally almost 99.99999% uptime. So it's really a situation where, again, if you really are focused on driving a ton of traffic, stuff like that, the reason I say this is because we had that issue at a previous company that I worked. We had a Magento store that was self-hosted, and we moved over to Shopify, and we've never had issues on Black Friday ever again. But I mean, again, it's a bit of a biased opinion, purely because of the fact that I enjoy the platform a lot more. But I think there's all these things that people need to consider, and then you need to figure out what's best for you and your business.
Love it, and great advice. Thank you. I don't know if this is going to be a controversial question, so you can let me know if you're not comfortable answering it. But there are a lot of e-commerce e-commerce courses / self-proclaimed gurus in South Africa. I'm not talking internationally. How can you just maybe educate a few people on, the live tonight, how to, I just want to say, kind of spot a phony? Because I've come across quite a few, and I'm just like, I don't know if I can actually trust this platform or not.
So to be honest with you, the only way to spot a phony is to educate yourself so that you know enough to know when you're getting bullshitted. Like, that's really the only answer. Like, this is why it's so important to upskill yourself, because you're going to inquire on a site and you're going to book a call with some guy and he's going to tell you, we're going to run paid ads, Google. And look, there's some amazing agencies in South Africa as well. And there's some amazing consultants like Warwick, and what Warwick's achieved is inspirational. Like
Yeah.
like it's what he's done is amazing, and he's changed people's lives, and they're doing something really, really awesome. And then there's similar groups of people that do just as good work, but it's a situation where the only way to spot a phony is to educate yourself and to listen to your gut feeling. But the more you educate yourself, the better that inner gut feeling can guide you, because you're going to get an idea of when someone goes, oh, no, but that doesn't make any sense. Like that's not what I've heard. But I mean, there's psychological stuff like people speak very fast because they try and sound clever. They use big words. I'm the one of those people who wants to dumb everything down so that everybody understands. But people who obviously use extremely extravagant words, and especially marketing lingo and all these things, like usually they are the ones who are a little bit more insecure about the service that they're selling, and it's usually purely because of the fact that they don't maybe believe as much as they should in their own service, or it's a situation where they're just not as good as they should be. But I think let your inner compass guide you and your moral compass guide you, and the only way to have it do it is to educate yourself, and to then when you're in a conversation, you'll kind of like get an idea, and that's really the best way to do it. Have a look at people's Google reviews. Have a look at their Facebook reviews. Stalk them on social media. We've had someone inquire with us the other day who said, Jandre, I've been following you for 2 years. And funny enough, my sales team, for some reason, we had an issue with our technical. This is now Murphy's Law, and this is just a side story. We switched calendars software. We moved over from one software to Calendly, and the one guy booked a call, and the one sales guy neither one of them got a notification that the call was booked because our systems weren't integrated correctly or something happened. And I got this long email saying, Jandre, I've been following you guys for 2 years. Like, I was so excited about inquiring because I believe that you guys were probably one of the better people to inquire with. And I was so stoked to learn what you could do for my business. And I haven't heard from you guys in like 2 days. And this is disgusting. And I'm so disappointed. And long story short, I immediately picked up the phone and I phoned him. I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. And I was on leave. I was like in Sun City. I think that's when we connected as well. So I literally picked up the phone.
Yes, you did.
I was like, you're not going to believe me. And this is probably going to sound like the worst lie in the world, but we literally just changed calendars, and this is what's happened. And, we sorted it out quickly, and he's smiling. And he actually messaged me the other day. He's like, I just wanted to apologize. I overreacted. I had a tough day. And I was like, no, but we're not perfect. But funny enough, this person has been following us for 2 years. And I think you just, not digressing too much, follow these individuals around and see what they're up to and see who they are behind the scenes, and see what their companies are like or organizations are like. And I think you should get a good feel of who to trust and who to not trust.
And I love that. That's, again, super informative. Thank you so much. I think from my side, my one last question, and it is about the future, but essentially your predictions for the e-commerce space for 2022 and beyond, I think in South Africa and Africa as a whole, because again, it's a $1 billion industry that we are still tapping into. I feel like we're still in the early stages. So what are some of your predictions?
Yeah, so look, I'm not Nostradamus, so I don't like making predictions purely because I just react to what the market does. Like I'm one of those people who literally just react to what I see where the market is going, and I react accordingly. But if I have to make a prediction or two, I think what's happening in the e-commerce space is that the e-commerce space is moving into a place where it's trying to mimic the in-store and in-retail experience a lot better. So that's the one thing that's missing for e-commerce, is really the fact that it's tough to mimic that actual in-store experience. Like, there's nothing like walking into a store and having someone go, hey, sir, can I help you? What color jeans do you want? What size are you? Let me walk you. And then before you know it, like, you've got like 3 different colors of jeans, all your size, and you're ready to go fit it on. Like, what is happening in the e-commerce space is mimicking certain elements of that in-store experience. We see it with live shopping. You see it with 3D photos. So you're probably going to see a lot more 3D type product images, product shots and stuff like that from all angles, and you'll be able to scroll around to see how the watch looks and whether it's got any scratches on different parts of the watch or wherever, if it's a secondhand watch. And you might actually start seeing a lot more live shopping, like actual live shopping, like having a product on the site and then having a video right next to it where someone is hosting a live of just like a fashion show where they literally just, putting the products on, and you can literally buy the product and check out right there and then. They can have a conversation with you even while you're shopping. And like that I think is two things that I've seen that's picking up, and it's probably going to play a big role in 2022. But again, I don't like making predictions. But the prediction is we're moving into a space where we're trying to mimic the in-store retail experience as much as possible. So whatever that's going to look like.
Love it. Just going to see if there's any questions from the side. You've got Blootman. I assume he's your friend. He says, hello, my friends.
Yeah, so funny enough, this is the guy who's literally built my very first site for me. And his name is also Jandre, yeah. His name is also Jandre. So we used to play rugby together down in George, and I went to him. Like, I didn't have anybody to turn to when I wanted a website, and he helped me with my first website, and that's where my whole journey began.
Amazing. Oh, that's so sweet. Well, that's all from my side, and I want to see if there aren't any questions. So I want to say thank you for your time this evening and for bestowing your wisdom upon us. I truly appreciate it. I definitely will probably have you back on a podcast soon. And if you are in Cape Town and have free time, I am here, so we can always meet up for coffee face to face.
Yes, that's good.
But have an amazing management getaway. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me. I don't like using the word wisdom. I don't like using the word wisdom. I like using the word experience. Like, it's a situation where, I've been doing this for 10 years. So if anybody could learn from my mistakes and hopefully avoid them for themselves, that'll be great. But by no means, is any advice that I give, it should all just be contextualized for yourself. And what I say is just, a perspective, one perspective. Of the matter. So with that said, hopefully, there's some value, but it was so nice to chat to you, and it was nice to, hang out, and yeah, if we can do it in person soon, that'll be great.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Guys, have a good evening, and thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Cheers, bye.